We are not going to listen to the cheerful tour guides today. Instead, we will look at this massive object through a completely different lens. We will examine it the way we are used to looking at a dry geodetic report. Like a strict technical specification, or a forensic emergency inspection report. Before us stands the enigmatic Devil's Tower, located in the state of Wyoming. Let's immediately turn our attention to the cold, hard numbers. Mathematics is beautiful because it simply does not know how to lie. It cannot twist facts to please historians, nor can it bend to comfort traditional geologists. The height of this staggering monolith, from its base to its flat summit, is exactly 386 meters. To help you truly understand the sheer, terrifying scale of this object. This is nearly 60 meters taller than the iconic Eiffel Tower in Paris. And it is significantly taller than the famous Chrysler Building in New York. Its absolute height above sea level exceeds 1.5 kilometers. And on the very top of this giant, there is a practically perfect, mathematically flat surface. It is sliced off as if by a giant ruler, forming a plateau the size of a professional football field. Roughly 90 by 55 meters of completely level ground, suspended in the sky. And right here, for anyone with a technical mindset. For any normal, practicing engineer, the first loud alarm bell starts ringing in their head. Just look carefully at the geological profile of the surrounding landscape. All around it, there is nothing but a rolling, gentle plain. For millions of years, relentless rains, fierce winds, and aggressive erosion have smoothed these lands. They have turned any sharp peaks into gentle hills, soft cones, or low ridges. This is a fundamental law of nature. Nature abhors a sharp edge. Nature smooths all corners. But smack in the middle of this perfectly smooth plain, a monstrous cylinder sticks out. It stands with practically vertical walls. The angle of inclination here is absolutely critical. According to every known law of geomorphology, this object should not have survived to our days. It should have been washed away, completely pulverized, and buried under its own massive debris. Instead, what do we see? We see a clear, stubbornly sharp silhouette defying time. It is as if someone took an industrial milling machine of planetary scale. With one swift, easy movement, sliced off everything unnecessary. And left behind this perfect, indestructible core. But that is only the top layer of this terrifying mystery. Let's adjust our optics and bring the camera much, much closer. We zoom in the picture. And here begins the part that official science prefers to gloss over. They try to talk it away using complex, unpronounceable terminology. This colossus is not a monolithic piece of granite. It is not some random rock formation, nor is it a homogeneous block of basalt. Devil's Tower consists of a gigantic, perfectly ordered bundle of vertical columns. These are not chaotic cracks caused by natural drying. This is a rigorous, undeniable hexagonal structure. 6-sided pillars, tightly fitted to one another, without a single gap. Reaching up into the sky for hundreds of meters. Geologists call this columnar jointing, and with a smart look they claim. This is simply how magma cooled inside an ancient volcano. And now, let's turn on a healthy dose of professional skepticism. If there are any metallurgists, builders, or foundry workers among you, or at least anyone who didn't skip their materials science labs in college, answer one simple question for yourself. Have you ever seen a molten mass, be it metal, slag, glass, or volcanic lava, spontaneously form perfect geometric figures while cooling in the wild? And not just small shapes, but structures the height of a modern skyscraper? Let's recall the fundamental physics of the process. What are the necessary conditions to create a perfect hexagon from a viscous liquid? The liquid must cool absolutely evenly throughout its entire volume. It must cool at exactly the same rate in every single point. And this must happen with a total absence of external vibrations, winds, groundwater, or impurities. Is such a pristine environment possible in wild nature, in the open air, or inside a violent volcano? Never. Any process technologist will tell you. When a huge mass of material cools down, massive internal stresses always arise. The material tears where it is thinnest. Cracks propagate chaotically, in unpredictable zigzags, at entirely random angles. This is the fundamental, inescapable law of entropy. But what do we actually observe at Devil's Tower? We see perfect calibration. We see machine-like precision. It looks as if this was not a random geological event. It looks like a precise blueprint from a high-tech engineering bureau, executed in solid stone. Fine. If this is not the physics of cooling melts, then what does it resemble? Ask any carpenter, joiner, or a forester with 30 years of experience. A person who has held wood in their hands all their life will answer without hesitation. This is the structure of biological fibers. It is a classic bundle of capillaries. The exact same tubes a living organism uses to lift nutrients and water from its roots to its crown. Take a simple stem of flax, celery, or a giant sunflower. Cut a small slice, and place it under the simplest school microscope. You will see exactly the same picture, a flawless hexagonal grid. Living nature uses the hexagon not for the sake of beauty or aesthetics. It uses it because it is the most brilliant and economical way to pack tissues densely. This is how bee honeycombs are built. This is how the compound eyes of insects are structured. And this is exactly how the fibers of higher plants are organized. The hexagon allows you to fill 100% of the space without voids or gaps. It provides maximum structural rigidity with the absolute minimum consumption of building material. And right here, we face a massive cognitive dissonance. We are looking at an engineering solution that is impossible for the world of dead stones, but is the absolute gold standard for the world of living biology. Our eyes are looking at a colossal, petrified stump of a giant organism. We clearly see the biological fibers. What's more, look closely at the very base of the tower. Down there, these massive stone columns begin to smoothly curve outward. They expand the skirt of the base, digging into the earth. Exactly the same way the roots of any large tree spread out near the ground. They do this to maintain balance and support the massive weight above. But the academic textbooks continue to monotonously repeat the story about a volcano. The vision and logic of an engineer tell us one thing, while the official, unyielding dogma dictates another. I suggest today we trust our own eyes and the laws of material resistance, rather than the endlessly rewritten pages of academic dissertations. Let's open the official version and read what they tell us. They say, before us is a laccolith, or a volcanic magma plug. Supposedly, 50 million years ago, magma struggled to erupt to the surface. It got stuck in the thick layer of sedimentary rocks and slowly cooled underground. Then, over millions of years, the softer outer rocks weathered away. And voila, we are left with this imposing central core. It sounds like a very neat and coherent story, until you actually start doing the math. Geologists absolutely love to bring up the famous Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland as an example. There, on the coast, we also find basaltic hexagonal columns. But let's pause and honestly compare the scales of these two objects. In Ireland, the height of these stone pillars ranges from 6 to maybe 12 meters. That is the scale of a roadside curb or a small house. And even there, at a mere 12 meters, we see massive imperfections. We see curvature, chaos, varying thickness of the faces, chips, and broken geometry. But in Wyoming? In Wyoming, we have almost 400 meters of absolutely flawless vertical lines. Any professional tiler or mason will tell you the truth about this. Anyone who has tried to lay hexagonal tiles on an area of just 20 square meters knows the pain. It is an absolute nightmare of precision. It is hellish labor. If you make an error of just half a millimeter on one tile, after 5 rows, all your seams will drift, and the entire geometry will turn into a chaotic mess. So how could unevenly cooling magma, in wild, chaotic underground conditions, manage to maintain a perfect, identical pitch for hundreds of meters in height and width? The probability that blind, random chaos created such precision under the influence of thermal contraction is mathematically equal to absolute zero. Let's grab our calculators again and engage in some pure engineering design. If we accept the working hypothesis that this is not a mountain, but the stump of a giant silicon tree, we can easily calculate and restore its original, ancient dimensions. The diameter of the base of Devil's Tower is approximately 300 meters. The diameter at the summit is about 84 meters. In dendrology, the science of trees, there are standard proportions for tall species like sequoias or eucalyptus. The ratio of the trunk diameter at the ground to the total height of the tree is roughly 1 to 20, up to 1 to 30. Let's do the math. We take 300 meters and multiply it by the minimum coefficient of 20. We get 6,000 meters. 6 kilometers of height. If we use the coefficient of 30, we get nearly 9 to 10 kilometers. This was an object that literally pierced the troposphere and reached with its crown into the stratosphere. A skeptic will immediately shout, such a structure would collapse under its own weight. And the skeptic would be absolutely right, if we were building this tree out of modern carbon-based wood. It would fail instantly in our current, thin atmosphere. But we are talking about a silicon-based form of life. Silicon is a completely different level of structural strength. It is the strength of solid rock and a semiconductor, heavily reinforced at the molecular level. Moreover, such extreme height screams to us that the conditions on Earth were fundamentally different back then. To push water up to a height of 6 to 9 kilometers, it's a massive challenge. The current atmospheric pressure of 760 millimeters of mercury is physically insufficient. Hydraulics is a very stubborn science. You cannot negotiate with pressure. No amount of root pressure or capillary effect can lift moisture to the height of Mount Everest. At our current air density, it is physically impossible. This means only one thing: the atmosphere of the past was exponentially denser. And this, by the way, is completely confirmed by analysis of air bubbles trapped in ancient amber. The gas pressure inside those ancient bubbles is radically different from today's air. It is also confirmed by the very existence of giant dinosaurs. Under our current gravity and thin air density, those massive creatures could not have taken a single step. Their bones would have been instantly crushed by their own massive weight. Now, let's descend back down to the foot of the tower. Let's examine what the official guides dismissively call the scree or rubble. But we, as forensic investigators, will call this exactly what it is: the primary evidence. Look closely at how this mountain is being destroyed. If this were a classic volcano, among the debris we would find a colossal amount of volcanic tuff. We would find pumice, porous structures, chaotic lava flows, and slag. But down there is absolutely nothing of the sort. At the foot of Devil's Tower lie exclusively fragments of those very same hexagonal columns. They are chopped up like firewood. They lie in rows. It looks as if someone spilled a massive box of giant pencils. In materials science, there is a golden rule. The character of a material's destruction always reveals its internal structure. If you break a piece of homogeneous cast metal or stone, it chips away with sharp, conchoidal, completely random edges. But if you break a composite material, or a piece of wood, it delaminates. It splits strictly along its fibers. The fragments of Devil's Tower do not turn into shapeless gravel or sand. They peel off strictly along the boundaries of their fibers. They preserve their perfect hexagonal geometry right to the very end. This is not the behavior of a monolithic rock. This is precisely the behavior of a bound bundle of isolated structures. These rocks are literally petrified wood chips. They are the sawdust left behind after a grandiose, planetary-scale dismantling. And by the way, let's talk about the stone itself. The rock from which the tower is made is called phonolite. Translated from Greek, this literally means sounding stone. If you hit a fragment of phonolite with a hammer, it emits a pure, almost metallic ringing sound. Any experienced stonemason will confirm this for you. Ordinary, wild rock sounds dull. It thuds. The only things that ring like a bell are high-density ceramics, metals, or pre-stressed concrete of the highest grades. This ringing indicates a colossal internal ordering of the crystal lattice. This is not some chaotically frozen slurry. This is a highly advanced structure, created for a very specific, immense function. So, how could organic matter become solid stone? Chemistry gives us a very clear, undeniable answer, through the process of pseudomorphosis, or substitution. You have probably all seen those beautiful souvenirs, petrified slices of trees. In places like Arizona, entire ancient forests lie dead on the ground. They have turned into semi-precious chalcedony, opal, and jasper. The annual growth rings are perfectly preserved. The texture of the bark is there. Even the microscopic tunnels of tiny parasites in the wood are preserved. But there is absolutely no carbon left in them. It is pure silicon. This happens when an organic object is rapidly buried without oxygen and flooded with hot, highly pressurized mineral solutions. Molecule by molecule, the silicon relentlessly takes the place of the carbon. And the laws of chemistry absolutely do not care about the size of the object. If this process is possible for a small branch or a log, it is exactly as possible for a massive trunk with a diameter of 300 meters. The only question is the unimaginable scale of the catastrophe that covered this giant forest. But the most terrifying, chilling question remains. Where is the rest of the massive trunk? If a tree 9 kilometers high was sawed off or broken, where are those cubic kilometers of silicon wood? They are not lying around nearby. They are simply gone. And here we arrive at a truly dreadful conclusion. Our planet looks exactly as if, in the distant past, it was a gigantic, completely depleted quarry. Look at the work of modern rotary excavators in open-pit coal or copper mines. What do they leave behind after their brutal work? Perfectly flat, stepped plateaus. Mountains sliced down to the very root. Direct, sharp angles of deep artificial canyons. Devil's Tower is quite simply a stump. A stump left behind in the middle of a global, planetary-scale clearing of territory. The highly valuable silicon trunk was utilized, transported away, or processed. While the deep root system, useless for their purposes, was simply abandoned in the ground. And the most shocking part? Seismic data fully confirms this. Ground-penetrating radars show that beneath the tower, there is no expanding cone of a magma chamber. There is no magma pocket, as there absolutely must be for a volcano. Instead, the scan shows the exact same fibrous structure going down, which, at a depth of several kilometers, begins to branch out widely. Magma does not know how to branch out underground like a biological root system. It forms massive lenses and thick, blunt layers. Only roots branch out. Only biology creates that geometry. Why was it necessary to ruthlessly destroy these majestic giants? Perhaps the reason was not only to harvest the physical resources. Remember what silicon is used for today in our modern world. It is the absolute foundation of all our electronics. It is the ultimate semiconductor. Quartz, which is silicon dioxide, possesses a powerful piezoelectric effect. If you compress it, it generates an electrical current. If you apply a current to it, it physically vibrates. Now, close your eyes and imagine a tree 10 kilometers high, made entirely of highly active, piezoelectric silicon. It pierces the upper layers of the atmosphere, where there is a colossal potential difference. It sways slightly in the intense stratospheric winds. And as it bends and vibrates, it continuously generates megawatts of pure, clean energy, transmitting it directly through its massive root system into the unified energy grid of the planet. These were not just trees. They were living, biogenic power plants. By sawing them down, someone didn't just take the raw materials. Someone completely de-energized the entire planet. They rebooted the biosphere. They wiped out the old, superior infrastructure, preparing the Earth for a new, downgraded, carbon-based era. For a world where living creatures are weak, live short lives, and are completely dependent on brutal food chains. Of course, it is much easier to just believe in a lava plug and random thermal cracks. It is much calmer to sleep that way. But an engineer is accustomed to trusting calculations, material resistance, and their own two eyes. Our world is arranged much more complexly, it is far more ancient, and vastly more fantastic than what the standard school textbooks are allowed to tell us. Think with your own mind. Question everything. See you in the next episode.